Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review the movie Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. That'll be the second link in the description below. Also consider subscribing if you end up enjoying this review. Alright, enough shilling until the end of the review. Let's get into Snake Eyes. So, there was one other G.I. Joe movie earlier. I remember it, very briefly. And this movie is explicitly about Snake Eyes as his little backstory, I guess. So, here we go. So, this movie begins with a young Snake Eyes. I don't know what else to call him, so I'll just call him Snake for short. Starts with him and his father in this sort of cabin in the middle of nowhere in the forest. The son is, Snake is gathering some intel, some questions, trying to learn about what his father is up to. And as they make their way back, the father gets a little bit more uncomfortably stealthy and guns out as he places his son in stealth mode and tells him to get ready. Gets ready to pull the man out. Pull his gun out as a man comes in and he says some stuff, and then he says he will kill the father if the dice land on something bad. It just so happens that the dice land on, well, Snake Eyes. Oh, so that's where that name comes from. Okay. Anyway, so the son comes out and flees the situation, and thus the father is killed. We cut 2 years later in this fight club where Snake fights some other guy and he wins. And thus he's joined by some other guy named, I wrote Kenta, so I believe that's his name. Anyway, Snake wants to hears an offer about who killed his father, and decides to work for this guy. So he starts off by stuffing some guns, and he's brought into the Yakuza. And in the midst of all this, he's given a chance to kill this other individual that he just meets and decides not to kill. So him, along with this quote-unquote traitor, fight together and fend off these incoming attacks. He decides that he's gonna, work with this guy since they just sort of clicked, I guess. And a bunch of men, as they're trying to escape, miss their swords as they pierce the vehicle that they're trying to escape from through several means, and I mean literally escaping by plot convenience, and, because he's the main character. Anyways, he wakes up later on a plane, and we get to cut to him moving to Tokyo. So this man brings him to his grandma, who's the hand of this clan, and he is told that if he wants to be a part of this clan, that he must proceed to pass 3 tests. This character, by the way, his name is Toby, I believe, or his shortened name anyway. And this woman that he works with is Ikiko, I think. I'm sorry if I misheard any of the names or mispronounced them. It's fine. So yes. The first test is he is to take a bowl from this other gentleman without dropping water 4 times. He drops it 3 times, and then after the third, he got some advice prior, and thus just requests to get the bowl. And he does so. Neat. Anyways, he goes for a little bike ride, and we see that he still works for the Yakuza man, who gives him the snake eye dice. And Snake Eyes is like, oh, I better keep listening to this guy. So oddly, the Snake Eyes doesn't know Japanese? Question mark. I thought he was Japanese, but I guess not. So he's learning Japanese. I guess he's just not Japanese. Maybe he just grew up in America somewhere? I don't know. That part is a little bit weird. Anyway, so he meets with Toby, who gives him this sword. And thus, Snake, following him, is trying to move around and look at the scenario he's finding himself in. But Akiko remains suspicious, so she tries to fight him and try to teach him the ways in her own way. So anyways, he starts to head out after the fact, and, he's going in pretty deep with this Yakuza boss to, get what he wants, which is revenge. He wants, for sure, to find the person who killed his father. So he remains with the Yakuza boss. And as they're on this little operation with the Yakuza boss, he finds with the other three, or other two I should say, these boxes from Koba, because that's the enemy faction of G.I. Joe, you see. So they contact Scarlet, this other redhead woman who works with the Joes already, who does some beatdowns. And this is where Snake Eyes gets to learn about what this whole Cobra operation is all about and what their whole deal is. And he finds out also about this Baroness who works deep within the confines of the evil Cobra. So, Snake heads out, Akiko follows, and he manages to give her the slip. And thus he gets to meet with the Baroness, because the Baroness is also kind of sort of working with the Yakuza boss, and the Yakuza boss believes that he's working for him. So he's in both pockets right now. Snake Eyes is living the easy life, but he's also living the harsh life because he's working for both of them. So he's given his second test, where he must head towards this light, and he's reshown his past, by mystical means, I guess. And this blind man says in order for him to test the first test, he must even out his heart, or something along those lines, or he will inevitably fail the third and final test. So Snake Eyes, still having the dice in hand, decides to throw them those bones and figures out that those were weighted dice the entire time. So that only enrages him more, even though that was kind of obvious when they first landed that they were weighted dice, but whatever. He had to learn it the hard way, I guess. Anyway, Ikiko returns and sees that some suspicious stuff is going around. But Snake manages to hide his little covert operation from Ikiko at this time by hiding and explaining his side of the story, but only the good parts. So he steps up for test 3, getting ready, as these huge snakes come out when he presses this little button for this cavern that he's dropped into. They get ready to strike, but Ikiko drops down and shows her own heart is pure and calm and whatever, so the snakes sort of just fuck off. Neat, I guess. So at this point, Snake and Toby make a blood pact after he gets out. And thus he starts to trip some security to immediately almost break the pact and do blah blah blah. So he gains access by following the two of them to this red crystal, and grabs it immediately after. Ikiko sees him do this after getting in and tries to attack her, but he knocks her out and fucks off. So he goes back to the Yakuza and the Baroness, and he's like, yep, I'm still not caring for them, so I'm just gonna give you this. So he does so. The man, Yakuza boss shows what this power can do, and Snake Eyes is like, well, fuck, that shit's scary. So he gets to get his revenge, because I guess Koroba still has no clue that Snake Eyes is doing his own thing up until this point. So he goes to face the man, his killer's father, who apparently also worked for Cobra. Oops. Big shock. So, in this revelation of that, and forcing the man to roll the weighted dice before that, Snake Eyes decides to let the man go. So yeah. So, he rejoins the group, but is being chased by Toby and the sister. But he ends up going after the people chasing them. Meanwhile, back at the clan, it's being attacked by the Yakuza boss and his powerful red gem that can power bomb explode shit. So, the attacks are attacking, fights are happening, things are getting a bit crazy. The Baroness is betrayed by the Yakuza boss for this red crystal. So she decides that she's gonna fuck off a bit and join Scarlet and them for a bit. So they get a bit of a team lineup, the very distinct power line walk of the heroes, most of them, with the Baroness being the obvious exception. And the Yakuza boss, who has the power gem in his hand and could just blast them away right now, but then the movie would end and everything would be terrible. So he decides not to do that. Anyways, Snake Eyes gets him as they poof out some smoke and do some ninja shit. And as he manages to barely escape, the Yakuza boss does, it just so happens that Snake Eyes is on the chase and gets him to trail down that trial zone with the big snakes. And the big snakes come out and they attack as the Yakuza boss manages to kill one of them, but then is immediately killed by another one. Whoops. Could have seen that coming, but Snake Eyes does the whole calm heart thing. Snakes are like, yeah, fuck it, we're gone. And he gets out of there. He places the gem back. And everyone who's left in the clan is reunited. Again, who's left of the clan. The grandson, Toby, however, is kicked from the leadership role. And he decides to remove himself from the clan entirely. And he manages to also threaten Snake Eyes as he gets ready to fuck off. So, Snake Eyes, getting ready to serve, gets his gear that we see him known for in the previous G.I. Joe movie, this is a prequel set up to that, obviously. And Scarlet gives him papers about how his father was, Snake Eyes' father, was one of the Joes, one of the G.I. Joes, Joe Colton. And that's the reason why he was killed, because he did some sort of mission where he saved a bunch of people, but was killed in the process. So, yeah, that's about it. And then Snake Eyes rides off with his new gear. And that was Snake Eyes. G.I. Joe. It's kind of stupid, to be honest. Uh, Pretty obvious plot devices, plot armor being even more present, uh, fairly throughout the movie. From them surviving the sword attack to the Yakuza boss not using his brains when he has the gem in his hands, and the people are just the people. Everyone he needs to kill is right in front of him, and he just waits there like an idiot. Things of that nature tend to always bog a movie down in its objective quality. So, the fights, some of them are pretty decent when you can see what's going on. Some of it's super fast, super hot. Um, and yeah, in terms of being a character backstory, it kind of gives the eye-rolling explanation of things that you never really thought you wanted to ask about, like, how did Snake Eyes get his name? It was from a diet, like, things of that nature are always, like, sort of eye-rolling, I guess, depending on how you answer it. Sometimes, when you have an established story, I guess sort of the hardest thing about a prequel is answering things in a satisfying way. That, to me, seems to be one of the harder things that prequels tend to usually not get right a lot of the time. I suppose this is better than Han Solo by a large margin, because I distinctly remember that being a lot worse. But I wouldn't say this movie's great by any means. I would probably place this somewhere in the middle, like a 5 out of 10, if I'm being objective and just, calling it as I see it. So I guess, technically speaking, it's one of the better prequels I've seen, as I mentioned, because I can't really think of many prequels that are great off the top of my head, especially when they come out after the movie that sort of, introduced them. I'm trying to think of prequels that come to mind, and, yeah, again, having issues, my brain isn't seeing the possibilities or considering probably other movies that might be out there that are prequels that are actually good, but I don't know. If there are any prequels you've seen out there that you think are actually good and explain things in a coherent way and lead up to the main story in a coherent way and aren't filled with plot, character plot armor, then let me know. Uh, so yeah, that's my review for Snake Eyes. If you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server. The second will lead you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.